the attendees, it looks like everybody has used UPstart in the past. So some of this, I think we can go a little bit off script. However, if you do have questions, please do ask them in the questions box. Lower right hand, and I will get to them as we can. I would also like to let you know about a webinar we're doing next Friday, which has to do with the PIM-IP again and the e-keypad apps. And Mr. Jason Calloway, the developer of the apps, will be joining us. And we'll be kind of going through how we load up a file into the PIM-IP, which we'll be covering today as well, but also how to actually set up how the apps, how we interface with the apps and things along that nature. All of that information you can register for that on our website. So we're going to talk about designing a system, the PIM-IP and the UPstart. We'll actually create a network. We'll show you about the new designer. We've changed a bit of things in that. We'll basically create a mini system here. Those of you that do not have an account as of yet on our website, please do so. You can go to under the resources page and create an account. And once you have logged back in, underneath here, different things will show up. Forms, some of our worksheets, some of the different programs that we have, our Model Home, My Home, Get Started Now kind of a thing, as well as presentations, and all dependent on what type of a client you are with us, what you actually have access to on there. So it's really material specifically designed for your classification of a customer for us. That all being said, the three simple things that I always talk about is, designing a system. What do you want to control? We can then figure out what modules we need. And we do have a variety of worksheets to help you do that, to fill in the keypad worksheets, all of the devices that are going to go into a system. And if you use these, it actually helps with all of your programming. And you can do a lot of that programming offline before you even install a device into a home. So we are working on an app kind of what we're calling easy UPstart, which enables you to do a lot of this kind of stuff on tablet type things instead of having to use a full-blown UPstart. And a lot of that has to do with the results, creating the scenes, adding the controllers, assigning them to buttons, things like that, which we'll kind of cover here in our little wizard explanation. And kind of the final step to designing and installing your system is actually certifying it. Verifying all your scenes are doing what you want, all your LEDs are tracking, which is actually probably the hardest part of the whole situation, or wrapping our head around that. And we will spend a little bit of time on that today, and we'll go from there. So the basic rules: put in a phase coupler on every electrical panel that has lighting control on it. It's not worth a phone call if for some reason the signal doesn't cross over. If the house is over 5,000 square feet and or has more than 3 electrical panels, we do recommend the repeater. And this actually gives us some other capabilities within UPstart to do tests and certification and just to see how well everything is actually communicating to each other. And if you're working in a 3-phase environment, apartments, restaurants, things like that, you must put a 3-phase repeater in so it actually picks the signal up and puts it onto the other phase. We've had a variety of guys lately that have worked installed things in retail stores, things along that nature, did not put a 3-phase repeater in because the electrician told them it was single phase. Well, it had 2 of the 3 phases, so you have to have the 3-phase repeater in a system like that. And lastly is when we do signal strength communication, we want to make sure we have 13 Lesters or more. And from there, we want more Lesters. Now, the Powerline interface, most people have been using the RS-232. Most front-end controllers talk to the RS-232 PIM-R. It's been our mainstay. The PIN-U has really become the tool for most people to use UPstart with. Now, newest is the PIM-IP, which is our Ethernet unit. And I've got one here on the right-hand side here, and it's basically plugged into the wall, plugged into my router via a Cat5 cable. And now, the nice thing about that is that I can now walk around, if I'm on the Wi-Fi in a network, so I can walk around the house and do my programming or setting up things along that nature. I don't have to be tethered to the wall. Secondly, that device can enable me to program remotely. So if I do standard port forwarding of the unit, I can actually access the device from outside the home, and as long as I've got the UPstart file, I can do any changes that I want within UPstart remotely. So one of the things we'll kind of talk, kind of discuss a little bit about the new layout and the style of version 7. We've kind of moved to the ribbon style that Microsoft has really moved towards. And to me, I always try and do 3 steps to get from point A to point B. So in designing of a system, you know, you've got your network, which will show all of your devices. So we've got kind of tabs across the top here. And then we have these boxes of, you know, what do we want to do? So if I'm working with the network, what do I want to do with the network? I can connect or disconnect to my PIM. I can configure my PIM. I can look at, you know, signal and noise meters. If I have a repeater in the system, am I working with those? I can work with a systems designer to lay out a system. I can work with keypad, the worksheets. So within the software now, we've added the capability of the custom engraved membranes or the buttons on the 7-button keypad. So you know, we can fill all of that stuff out right here in the software. We can also look at the properties and the discovery, you know, if I need to go discover different things. And depending on what tab I'm on, it depends on the different things that will show up here. So UPstart's, you know, your configuration software. Now the design pane is the pane on the left. That hasn't changed. I mean, that's the same type of layout that we had in the other. The big changes are really more across the top. The display pane, again, is still on the right. And we still do have, you know, the signal meters down here at the bottom and kind of the status. And the configuration file is also stored on your computer. But one of the things we can do with the PIM-IP is we can actually export the file, and it's all parsed out for, you know, front-end controllers to grab all of the information and/or apps to do so. So, you know, the basics are still here. You know, we're going to create, set up different things. This is part of kind of one of my other courses. And I'm actually going to move directly to, you know, the new version of UPstart, and we'll kind of go from there. So as it's laid out, this is if I just started UPstart. You can see I've got different tabs: network, devices, scenes, and tools. One of the things we can do under the little UPB icon is this is where we can create a new file from, create a file from an existing network, or I can jump right to the systems designer. I can open up any one of my other existing files. But within here, I can get to my options of UPstart, how UPstart, you know, different things that are in it that we did have as well in the past. One of the things that I usually always do under this, each time UPstart loads, ask if it should be verified before performing it, instead of just going and starting to verify things, because that's just kind of a time waster. I mean, my goal is to get you guys in, get you out, and get paid quickly, and get your programming done quicker and faster, and you know, a whole lot easier. So, you know, all of these feature sets are still here under the options. Another neat little thing is that once we have a file created, we can actually export the file and or print preview the file. So we will actually kind of set up, these 3 switches and these 2 keypads for our little task today, and kind of go from there. Now, another nice little feature that we've got in it is I can create what style do I want to look at, and basically that has to do with the coloring of my display. So I can have a blue style, black, silver, aqua, or a Windows 7 style. I like black because it kind of gives me more contrast to kind of see what's going on. We also have this little quick toolbar, and instead of having to jump between the tabs to get the different feature sets, I can actually build my own and set up my nice little quick access bar. Now I can have, this bar, I can create what commands do I want, and any of the commands that are on any one of the tabs, I can, put and move over here to the right-hand side. And I think you'll see that once you use this a little bit, this will really kind of speed up your process of what you're doing. Mine basically is, do I want to configure my PIM? I want to connect or disconnect. I'm going to use my systems designer to add all the different devices. I can open up another file. I can create a new one. I can look at an existing file or print it out. I can program modified items, install or replace, and I've just created my own little setup here. But under the tabs, ones that are basic are the view, the style of view. So I can look at my icon view, or I can look at it in a list view, and that's a kind of a personal preference. So if I literally, kind of opened up my house, I kind of look at my house as a list view because I have a ton of things in my home. If I look at it as icons, it kind of takes up a lot more information. Under the list, a nice thing about the list is I can start to sort by style of product. I can sort it by the unit ID, by the room that it's in, device name alphabetically. I can sort very quickly and find a little more information by looking at things. The other nice thing about it is this little inspector. So if I kind of want to look at some stuff, kind of what's been programmed in certain things, and actually let me kind of scroll down here to like a wall switch, this will actually show me that because I'm on this wall switch, and it will show me that I'm on unit number 39, it's in the garage, and it's an alley light, that it's in 5 scenes. Good night, done, alley, living room TV time, and alley off. The transmit rocker tab on that switch has not been used. The auto off hasn't been used. The options and what is my receive sensitivity on the device. But I can scroll over any device and kind of quickly see what's going on, in that device. And as we kind of look at different styles, the on-off A, B, C, D, what's the scene it's triggering, or what's the function of the button. So the inspector kind of gives us a way to kind of quickly look at some things. Now, I can also arrange it by, unit ID, by room, by device type or type, which I'm doing the same as clicking on these tabs. But if I'm in if I'm in icon view, again, I can now sort it that way. So if I'm here and I wanted to do a multi-edit kind of a thing, I can highlight all my switches, and start with one, go to my last one, holding my shift button down, and I could do a modify, do different tasks. So it gives us the view and range are kind of standard on any one of our tabs. So in our network, we can connect or disconnect. So I am actually connected to a PIM. If I click on it, I'm no longer I'm disconnected. Or I can configure. So being that today we're going to work with the PIM IP, let's go ahead and choose a PIM IP. Now, we ship the PIM IP in DHCP mode. So it's automatically going to find, an IP address within the home. But I don't know what it is. I can quick run my PIM IP discovery, and it'll actually tell me what the IP address of the device is. Now, I can leave it as that, or I can assign it my own, and within that, I can basically choose the configure network settings, and normally it's in this obtain settings automatically. I can say, manually set it. I can set it within my my range that the router's using or outside my range. Set up my subnet mask, default gateway. This is very, very simple and pretty straightforward. Now, another thing that we have access to within the PIM IP is opening its web interface. So I can put in the default is admin and 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when I get in here, I can actually change a variety of settings that have to do with the DigiConnect web interface unit. And this is the DigiConnect is one of the standard people that make these little modules that enable anything to become IP capable. So this is literally their little configuration of what we're setting up in it. So it's basically the web server component connected to a PIM circuit and to the power line, and off we go. So I can actually set the IP address to it. I can set up, it's port 1 on the unit, what the speed is, things like that. And I can actually set up, different users and things. I mean, this is really more in a very advanced kind of section. You really should not have to come into here. But it also gives us the capability, if we're working with you remotely, to double check and see that everything's okay. So being that our IP is 192.168.1.5, I can then close that and punch in my IP address. And the standard port that we talk on is 2101. So at this point, I could connect to my PIM because I'm on my network here, and I am now connected to the PIM IP, and I'm operational. Very straightforward. Now, if I had done standard port forwarding, and my PIM IP at the office was borrowed for a trade show and has not returned as of yet, but I could say by name, and I can type in whatever my port forwarding address is, and I would hit connect, and it would give me the same blue checks and say I'm operational, and I'd now be talking to that PIM over the Ethernet or over the network, internet, and as long as I had my file open for that location, I could do my programming. So I'm just going to leave it there. Now, I can change some of the settings in the PIM IP. That has to do with when I leave UPstart, do I change my message mode, pulse mode, enable the PIM, disconnect watch, and that's what I can do with that. So I'll just say okay. Whoop, I got to connect again, and I'm now actually connected to the PIM, and I could actually talk to any one of the devices in my house. So the other things we can look at, being that we're working with an existing, I can look at my signal and noise meters. These are right here. Nothing's going on. Repeaters. I do have a repeater in my job, and it is working. So we know we're connected there. I could go to my systems designer. And what this does is enables us to run through and set up a new system, and I'll cover that here in just a moment. The keypad worksheets, I have got a variety of keypads in my house, and when we fill things in, this is what ends up coming up at the end. What keypad is it? What button is it? What's the text on it? What font? What size? What case, upper and lower case? What color it is? And I can actually copy copy this or and email it to the person that does the buttons for us. So you guys actually, we're cutting all the middlemen out of this. Go directly to the guy. You can email to him, order things from him, pay him with a credit card or PayPal, and you can have your buttons in a week. The rubber membranes we're still doing, but the buttons for the new 7-button keypad, we've got a third-party guy doing it, and it's been doing it for a long time. So, that's the engraving form. Now, if I look at the properties of my network, this is, what's the ID, the installer, customer, and the statistics, which kind of give us a count on all of the different pieces in it. I could do a discovery if I, wanted to come in and see if there's any other new devices. I could verify things. I could program all modified, or read all, which pulls all the information up and out. So those are kind of the pretty standard things for our network aspect. The next thing would be really devices. So I'm going to actually start a new file, new network file, and I could name my network. What's my network ID going to be? And put in a password, and I'll say OK. And what it's doing right now is it's actually going out and making sure that nobody is on network 45, and it's just making sure, and it'll come back and say OK, and we can start to go to add our devices. So, once we're at devices, we can do add, and being that I'm live, when I say add, it says go put that device in setup. What I could do to save time is come back to my network. I could disconnect from my PIN, come back to my devices, and I can say add. And I'm going to add a keypad. So we'll go from left to right here. We can do a 6-button keypad, and we're going to call that living room. And I'm going to erase my existing configuration. It's been added. Okay, I can add another one. Which I'll add the 7-button, and we'll put in the at the front door. All right, and so I think we all know how to add devices offline. So now I just can basically come to my wall switch, and to me this is actually the quickest way to be adding. Call this the cans, and we'll come back and add the others a couple of different ways. So, as you can see, we're kind of adding our devices here. They're being automatically assigned. The rooms have been added as well on the left-hand side in our design pane, and we don't have any scenes yet because we haven't added any. So what I can do in here is I can add, I can delete, I can identify a device. So, if you want to come back, once they're programmed, we can do that. I can view what's in it. I can edit it. So if I, highlight a switch and I say edit, all of a sudden I go to my edit window. Now, can I still double-click on here? Yes. Can I still right-click and say edit? Yes. All of the features that we had in the past are still here. We're just giving people a little bit more of a graphical interview here, a graphical view to do different things. Now, one of the nice things that's here is the copy configuration. So let me just quickly add another wall switch. And I'll make it the front yard. Fat fingers here. So let's say I had some scenes or something set up in the living room cans and I wanted the front yard to be the same as number 3. I could turn around and say copy configuration. I could pick the living room cans and say OK, and everything that was in the living room cans would now be set up within the front yard. So if we're doing outside lights or things like that. So we'll still have the copy configuration. It's just in a more visual aspect. I can do programming. I can verify it. If a device, fails, I could do an install or replace, which takes all of the information from what you've programmed into it and program down into another device. I can do testing, on, off, dim, get status, and I could also, end up doing a comm test to it. And let me come back online. And being that we already had configured what we're doing, we're just connecting back to the PIM IP. So under devices, I could say, send an on command, but I haven't programmed this device yet. But I could do a comm test. And obviously, when we drop into any one of these, we're kind of going into our edit mode, which brings up our standard tab that's got all of the capabilities of what we're wanting to do. So that's kind of what our devices tab enables us to do. When we come to scenes, I can use our scene builder. We've kind of taken the word linked out of UPstart wherever it was displayed, because people have been saying, what the heck's a link? Well, I'm creating a light, we're doing lighting control. I mean, that's kind of our terminology of a link of what we're sending, but it's, most people think of it as a lighting scene. So I'm going to create a scene builder. I can build different scenes. I can add a scene. I can delete a scene. I can edit a scene. I can activate, deactivate, copy it, rename it, whatever I want to do with the scene. So the scene builder basically gives me the capability of adding, editing. I can create new scenes. So scene 1, I'm going to call it, all on. Great. Scene 2, what do I want to name it? All off. So, I can go through and add all my scenes here. And once I do that, I can actually come into the device. I can rename it. I can pick a controller. So in our little scenario, I want to use the front door keypad, which is our 7 button. I can use the scene 1 button, which is right on the top. Okay, and I want to add another controller, and I want to use the living room on button. And now I can have it be an activate, or I can choose any of my, standard functions. So on the front hall one, I'm going to make it a toggle. At the front door, I'm going to make it a toggle button. Now on my living room keypad, I'm going to have it be just an activate, because on my 6 button, I'll have the off do the all off, the on do the all on, but the scene 1 here I can make as a toggle. Now under presets, this gives us the capability of coming in and grabbing, any of the devices that are in our that have not been added to the scene, and I can now come in here and whoops, if I want them to come on at say 90%, and I can actually set my fade rate here as well. And the rate can be from 8 seconds to an hour. So I just want them to be at my default fade rate, which standardly is 1.6 seconds. And because I've already chosen the S1 and the on button on the indicators, those devices have been lit up. They're going to be illuminated. And what we've done here on the 6 button is usually when you're using an on button as an activator, you're going to use the off button as, a deactivator. And if you're needing help with the LED information, we've kind of got this little device, a little help screen that, explains if I have like a positive kind of command, like an on, an activate, go to on, or a negative, or if you will, an off type command, a deactivate, go to off, what do you want the LED to do? So the one that confuses a lot of people is opposite. So basically, if I send an on command to all lights on, what do I want the off button to do? Well, because I sent an on command, I want the off button to go off. But if I turn around and do a deactivate command of that same scene, I would want the LED to come on. So in our situation here, being that we're using the front door keypad, the S1 button as a toggle, we're going to want the off button when I deactivate all on from the scene 1 button. I'm going to want the off button on the 6 button to track and to actually eliminate and, you know, turn off it's going to turn off the button here because I'm deactivating that scene. So we kind of give you a little help, a little LED stuff here. And if I needed to add another keypad, I could add another indicator, you know, I could choose that and add it here as well. And once we're done with that, we now, the scene is actually in use, and we actually get a view here on the bottom of the blue is the transmit. So I'm using the front door keypad, the S1 button is in toggle mode. I'm doing my living room keypad is in activate. I'm turning on the two devices to 90%, and then this is kind of our LEDs. So the builder actually gives us a nice kind of list and graphical kind of view of what our scene is. That being said, I can still come to my scenes over here in my design pane, and I can double click on it and still now use my visual link editor. So if I'm going to work on my all off scene, I now want to use my the front door keypad. I'm going to go to the top, and I want it to be my off button, and I want to I want to activate all off. And it's automatically added the indicator, and then I'm going to add my landscape light to the bottom, and I want it to go to 0. And I'm going to add my other lights, the cans in the living room, to the bottom, and I'm going to go to 0. And again, I can set my fade rates here, and that is now my scene. Now I could also add my living room keypad if I so chose, but being that we're using a toggle for the other on the all on, I really don't need to add this to here. Now when I'm done, you'll see that now that I'm in the visual link editor, I now have a visual scene editor. I can close it, I can program it, I can rename it, I can activate or deactivate it, but if I close it, that basically says save it. And this is saying, hey, you haven't programmed it yet. Do you want to program it or not? Right now I'm going to say no just to save some time here. So, and I don't want this to show up anymore. So that being said, we can now kind of see, and we can minimize, you know, all of the functions in each of the devices. So we've kind of added a couple of other feature sets here for what you want to kind of see of what's going on. So I now have my all off scene, my all on scene, and it will show me again kind of what my transmit is and my receive components, and then my LEDs of what's going on there. So that's kind of a little bit of a new feature as well, 2.7. And, you know, I could, being on the living room here, that's what I'm looking at. I usually like looking at all of my devices. Now, one of the things that we can end up doing is we could actually copy a scene. So let's say I wanted to do all on, but I want to use most of the devices, even though we only have 2 here. I want to say maybe it's just upstairs. So what I can do is I can highlight the scene here, and I can say copy. And what that's going to be is it's going to take all of the devices, all the receive components, and create a new scene. So instead of having to go grab and drag and drop or go add all the other devices again to an upstairs scene, I've literally got everything, and and I can come into my builder, and I can either double-click or edit it here, and go to my presets, and I can check off, all the devices I don't want. I can say remove, and now I can leave the levels at the same, or I could change them. So we're trying to help you not have to do double work. So from our all-on or all-on or all devices kind of scene that you're going to use, usually for a good night or something, you can now just delete things very, very quickly and then come back in and change your preset. So right now, living room cams, edit it. I'll make the controller. I'll make it the S2 button, and let's see if I can get just S2 here, and I'm going to make that a toggle. I'm going to add another controller, the living room, A button, and I'm going to make that an activate. And because I've added both of those, it's automatically added the indicators. Now, if I turned on the upstairs lights, right, are all my devices off anymore? No, so I'm actually going to want this to go off, and on my off button, now that want to go off as well. So because I turned the upstairs lights on, I know that my all off, which is my off button on the 6 button, is no longer valid. Let's go ahead and turn that off. Is all on valid anymore? Most likely not. And I really don't know what B, C, or D is as of yet, but we can access that from within the keypad itself. So those are some quick, easy steps that you can use within the scene builder. The tools, and actually, let me come back to devices, and let's go ahead and program this one living room cams. And it's going to tell me to go put it in setup. So this is going to be this light. I put it in setup and say okay, and it's going to go load, this one little scene and all of the information down into it. And this is where I usually recommend to people that you do all of your programming offline. You can, kind of verify, look at all your scenes, all your devices, things like that. Look at a print preview, if you will, just to make sure that everything is there. And when you get on the job site, I only have to touch the switch once and download every scene, all my configurations, all that kind of fun stuff into it at one time. So I'm just getting this program so I can kind of show you how we can do our testing functionality here, even though we haven't set all of the parameters within our wall switch. So just so I'm making sure everybody's still with me, I mean, just what everybody thinks so far, you can drop that in your question box. So at this point, being that I'm highlighted on here, I can turn the device on, I could turn it off, I could dim it to a specific level, I could also get the status of it. It'll go out, ask it, hey, what level are you at? I'm at 52%. With testing, I'm actually going back into my edit. I can do my on-off, my blink, whatever functions I kind of want to do here. I can make that a little bit quicker. So it's just a little bit more information. The COM test. Obviously, I'll go out to the device, see how well my my information is, and I'll come back and I'll turn off the light itself. So, it kind of gives us the basic information here. Under tools, this is kind of where I can view my log viewer or any of the commands that are being sent out and about. So at this point, everything's been being sent, received, sent, network. What's the command bin? What's the information, and then where to come from, UPstart. So I think, well, we haven't programmed this yet, but we had an activate network number 69, so that was the network ID I had set on that in the past. So we're actually seeing what commands are being being sent by this keypad, and it's been activating, and it's going from unit 2. So I can also configure my log. Where do I want to store my logs? I can do a COM test to a device. I can do a repeater test if I've got a repeater in my network. And I can also do, say, a device-to-device test. I can't do that right now because I've only programmed one device. And again, I can come look at my signal and noise meter. So, you know, I can do device tests or device comms, things like that, all here under the tools. So again, you know, we've come back. We're trying to say, okay, here's the network. Let's connect to our PIM. Let's work with our devices. Let's work with our scenes. And then the tools to make sure you've gotten everything programmed properly. So that being said, I can come up here. I could, on my shortcut bar, I could say save. I could save the file, and you know, it picks up the name of the network file. So I called it webinar, so automatically call it webinar. You know, and I'll call this 10.19.14, so it's the date. And that was my little shortcut. Other than that, I could use the Control F function, or I could come up here under my icon and I could say save or save as, or you know, whatever we want to do. Now, I'm going to kind of start a new file again and kind of show you our systems designer to help you, to actually show you how simple and easy this is. And to me, this is the easiest way and quickest way to set up a system. So, you know, you can put in the client, you know, this is Jones, their address, you know, 123 Main Street, whatever, the phone number, put in your information. And you know what? It's not allowing me to do this because I already had a file open instead of creating a new one. So let me just do this real quick. I'll close it, open up my UPstart, and I'm going to go to use the systems designer. So I can either do it here, I can do it here up on the bar, and it's automatically trying to connect to my PIM, which it knew what it was. So I can put it in here, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Jones, okay, Main Street. And now I can name the network file. I can pick my ID, you know, 56, my password, and what do I want to set my default dimming rate at. Some people like it to be a little slower. Some people want it to be faster. Our default is 1.6, so I can now say, look, I want them to be 3.3 for every device that any dimmer device that I add. And we erase the existing configuration as we do this because of the default scenes. There's a lot of guys that will add a switch and they forget to check that box, and all of a sudden they're saying, why is my kitchen light blinking? Well, scene 8 was being triggered somewhere else in the house, and the default scene 8 is blink link. So I always wipe it clean. Now what we can do is in this design I can add the names of the rooms. So I'll call the living room. I've got the front yard. I've got the kitchen. You know, and I can list out all the rooms that I know that are going to have devices in them in my system. The next thing is what's in the living room. Well, I have the cans, right? And I'm using my tab button to jump. I can use my mouse. And this is all PulseWorx products. So the kitchen cans, I'm going to use the WS1D or the WS1DL. You know, which one am I going to use? So it's a wall switch. I also know I have a keypad in here, and it's a KPCE6. Okay, I can hit the K button again, and I can jump through any of the devices that start with K. Which also has a load control devices, and I can add whatever other devices I have in the living room. But for this analogy, we're going to go here. What's in the front yard? Well, I got the landscape. And we know it's a wall switch, a WS1D. That's the only thing out there. And in the kitchen, I've got the island. And it's going to be a wall switch. So you can see how quickly you can jump through this, adding your devices, adding your scenes. And I'm going to put the keypad in here. All right, and I'm going to make this the KPC7. Now, this part is really what helps you get all of your programming done. Every single scene that you're going to create or have being controlled, you can list in here. So I'm going to have an all off. I'm going to have an all on. I can have living room lights. I'm going to have the landscape. I'm going to have the island. So these would be, you know, these first two would be global scenes, which affects everything. These next three are specific zones or a specific device. Then I might have like an area scene. So watch TV. I might have good night, which might only take care of part of the house. I have a scene in my house called done. You know, we have dinner time. But I can list out all of my scenes here, and we can go up to 250 scenes. You know, nobody's busted that yet. But now the nice part is this designer takes you to the living room keypad, and what do I want this on button to do? Well, I want that to be, you know, I want to turn on the living room cans, and I want that to be a toggle button. Well, I can save some time here and use my tab button, and I can use A, and I can say watch TV. I hit W, hit tab, and I can just make it an activate. And this one might be dinner. And this one is, what else do we have? And I can click on this and look at whatever other scenes, any of the scene names that I had created. I'll do that as good night. Well, we do like, yeah, this is just good night for now. And then D is going to be done. Off is going to be all off. Use last seen, bright and dim. Now, we can capture the engraving information here on this. I can choose what font I want, what size I want, what text I want. And engraving help gives us a little window to, you know, kind of give you, if I'm using what size, how many characters I can have on this item. I can also, over here, fill in the button text of what I want it to be. And on this one, I'll just fill this in. And I can, you know, move on to my next keypad in the kitchen. So S1, we talked about having that be an all-on. Well, in this situation, I might want this to be the island light, and I want that to be in a toggle mode. So we've created keyboard shortcut keys. So instead of having you come in here and use your mouse and go pick what I want, if I know what the function is going to be, I can hit toggle or activate, or D to deactivate, toggle. If it's a, you know, if I hit D twice, I can make it a deactivate or a dim. I can hit tab, tab. Off is going to be all off. That's going to be, I'm going to activate that. You know, this might be dinner time. I might make that a toggle. And watch TV. And make this done. All right. And again, I can help with my fonts. I want to do Arial bold. My font size, I want to be 12. And uppercase only. So now when I finish, what this is going to say is, hey, I've created the worksheet. You want me to produce them? Yes. And they've now been produced, and they're going to be saved in your designs folder, and it's pulled up the network name. It's in my document GPB in design. It pulled up the network name and listed it first because it's the Jones. It pulled up the room and the name, so it's the living room keypad, and it's saving it. So they've automatically been produced. So really what we've done is added the devices, given them their automatically given their unit IDs, giving them their names, and adding the buttons and the devices to the scene. But I haven't set any lighting levels yet. So now we take you to the scene builder, which is now back where we were a little bit earlier. So I can kind of see use last scene, great, all off. I know I have my transmit and my indicators. So I kind of want to add my devices. So I go to presets, I say add preset. I can add every one of my devices here. I can come in and say 0, hit tab, tab, 0, tab, 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 0, and I'm done. And all of a sudden I can see that. I can hit all on, I can double click, add my presets, 100%. I'm done. Living room cans. The preset, I'm now going to go to my living room can light. And what level do I want to come on at? Say 70%. Done. Landscape, preset, landscape. Okay, so I think you can see how quickly you can get through looking at your scenes, what's going on with them. And the nice thing is that I can still come back to any one of my devices and go into it manually and do any kind of editing, setting my options, the transmit functions that's going on in the 7 button, right? Island. I've got my indicators. I've got my advanced tab. I'll come back to indicators. The engraving. So what we can do here is because we have Island, Dinner, Watch TV done, all of that under the engraving tab, which is new, I can say copy the scene names. And it brought in everything that I had typed in. And these are the link numbers. And if I want to order these buttons, I can do that. And I can I've done that. So when we come back to the report, I'll show you exactly how this works. I can test it. I can communicate test to it. But let's come back to the indicators. And first we'll look at the transmit, what we've done. We've got to deactivate, toggle, activate, 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 and these are the order of what they've been set up as. So all of a sudden, those are here. So Island is button S1, Dinner is S2, 3, 4, and all off is exactly what what we've done. So it's automatically filled this in, and this really isn't all true, but we've kind of given you a start mark. So when I push the Island scene, I'm going to turn on that LED. S2 is Dinner, so do I really want to turn that off? No, because Dinner could be something else within the system. Watch TV really isn't going to affect that. S4 is done. That I definitely want to go off because everything is no longer off. And because I'm activating the Island, I want the all off to turns off. And if I deactivate it, it would turn on, but that's really not what I want it to do, so I'm going to change this to off. So when I activate Island, the off is going to go off, which is my done scene. And even if I deactivated it, it would turn it off. Now I would leave it opposite if I had an all-on thing in here. So coming in here, Dinner again is not going to change the Island light. It is going to change that, so it's going to go to off. And personally, coming across here at the top, if I turned on the island light, I would want the up and down LEDs on the keypad here to illuminate. I could have them turn off, or I could have them have no change. So dinner doesn't affect island. Watch TV, it doesn't change it. Done is no longer valid, so I want that to be off. Excuse me. Yeah, done is off, and then all off is off as well. And let's turn those on. Whoop. And turn those on. So dinner comes on. I turn on the up and down. I turn off the S4 and turn off the off button. So one of the things you can do to save some time is if I'm in done here, I can hit tab, and I know this is going to be no change. I can hit N. I want that to be opposite. S2 is going to be off. Actually, no, hang on. Island is going to be off. If I hit done, island is going to turn off. If I hit done, dinner is off. Watch TV is off. That goes on, and the all off also turns on. The up and down is no longer valid. Same here with all off. The island light, the LED off, off, off. Everybody's off. So that hopefully I haven't totally confused anybody on this situation. But the nice thing about the indicators is that I can add any other scene that would have affected what these LEDs do. So let's say I turned on the living room cans, right, from the other keypad. Would I want it to affect the island LED? No. Would I want it to affect the dinner time scene? Probably not. Watch TV? Probably not. Done is no longer valid, so I would turn that off. And because I turned the living room cans on, the all-off scene is no longer valid. And do I want the up and down to illuminate or be off? Well, it really doesn't matter, because if I work here, it doesn't affect the up or the down. So I leave those as no change. So the nice thing is that I can now really, truly have all of my LEDs track on the, or the indicators track on any keypad when any scene is sent. Now, one of the neat little things that I've been doing recently is, so we've got the kitchen island light here, right? So let's say I walk in the kitchen and I'm near the switch sooner. On the kitchen island light. Well, wouldn't I want the indicator to light up on the keypad? What I can do under my transmit components is change this to, or add this to the island scene, and the mode I use as indicators on the top, and I do island indicators off on the bottom. So what that does is if I manually turn this switch on, it'll tell this keypad's buttons what LEDs I'm supposed to do when I see island. So let's go ahead and program this, this device, and I think we've got receive components filled out in here, which are our links. So let me get island in here too, right? And I want the level to be, say, 90. Good night should be at 0. So we can still modify anything in a device right in it. Island, hold on, good night, TV time, so it's not going to be part of it. And I'm kind of making this up as we go right now. So the rocker switch, single tap, I'll have it go to 90. And I like changing my options to be blue when load is on, red when load is off. Red when load is on, blue when load is off. Personally, I can also set my auto time shut off here in it. And now I'll program my device. So this is the island. So this is this one here. And then we'll have to program the keypad. So we'll be able to kind of show you a little advanced feature that I can do LED tracking with the indicators on keypads with a wall switch. So I think you can see, and this is just my opinion, but you know, I'm hoping that you're seeing how we can quickly and easily modify and change and set up a system within the new version 7 UPstart. There are a ton of other features, you know, that we've all got, but by looking at all of the names here, I know pretty much everybody that's on board to see different things. All right, and let me close that, and I think this is the one we did, right? Isn't it? And the indicators. Oh, no, the other one. The 7 button. Yep, it's this one. Okay. This is the 7 button. Put the 7 button in setup. You press the scene 1 and the down arrow. And we'll go ahead and program that device. Any questions so far from our class? Comments? Thoughts? I'm actually just talking to myself. Don't know. Okay, why when a message was pulse mode on PIM IP? Okay, and actually on any PIM. So the question was, when I set up the configuration settings, when you're using a PIM with UPstart, it is actually talking in pulse mode. It's sending all kinds of little bitty data DATs back and forth from the devices. So it's in a mode what we call message or pulse mode. Whenever you're sending a scene, you're actually talking in a message. Most front-end controllers, I would say all front-end controllers, ELK, HAI, anybody that's talking UPV is talking message mode. So one of the things that can happen is guys will be, they only have one PIM, say a PIM-R, and they've got it connected to UPstart, and they disconnect. Or they just unplug it and then plug it in the wall and plug it into their controller, and they try and have the controller go and talk, and it doesn't work. You've got a factory default the PIM at that point, so then the PIM starts working again. They're like, what's going on? Well, it was in pulse mode. So especially with the PIM IP, if I'm going to be remotely using UPstart and I'm using an app or a front-end controller to talk to the PIM IP, I definitely want the device to go back into message mode. So that kind of takes care of that one. Second question, I have, what's the quickest way to reprogram network ID and password in an existing system? Okay, what you can do to that is I come back here to my network, and I can come into my properties. And if I've got the existing file already, I can come in here and I can say, change my network ID to whatever and the password to whatever the new thing is. And if I do that, then everything would go red and you're going to have to reprogram everything. Because the program knows what the ID is right now and that you're changing it, it can still talk to the devices. So that's the easiest way to change your network ID and password on those devices. So right now we've actually got our kitchen island device. So let me actually turn this off, turn both of these off, kind of go to a known state. I'll do, was it scene 1? Maybe not. Transmit. Oh, island is deactivated. That's supposed to be a toggle. See, this is why we check things. Another question came up as we're programming this is, or it's a comment, you are setting landscape lights to 90%. Obviously, I do not want to do that if I've got an AM12, and that is correct because an appliance module will not dim. And the receptacle module that we have coming will not dim either. It is just an appliance module. So somebody attended the webinar a little bit earlier today, and we talked about a new product that we have coming, which is our receptacle module. So you can see that here. This will be this top screw will also be controlled by the outlet. This is line, and then this is neutral here. So you know, this is our receptacle module. It'll fit in a standard box, and we can go from there. The reality is I use a 1,000-watt switch on my transformer for my landscape lights, and I can actually dim my magnetic transformer with my 1,000-watt unit switch. So it actually changes the way everything kind of looks. So scene one, I can turn on my light. I can do my toggle, and you can see that the up and down arrows are illuminating. So now I can dim and brighten that light itself. And what we had also done, and let's turn it off here, and my LED has been changing. I'll turn it on here, and it also now illuminated the indicators to tell it that, hey, I manually turned it on, and guess what? I can turn it off over here. So that's a nice little trick there. And it kind of really starts to keep all of your LED tracking in place when you're starting to do that. So that's kind of a neat little thing. One of the other things is we had created our custom engraved membrane sheet under our engraving, right? So what I can do now is I can come back to my KTC worksheet, and I can see that here, the kitchen keypad, here's the buttons, here's the names, here's the font, here's the size, uppercase, and then what color did I want the button to be. Now, within engraving, I can choose the faceplate color, white, black, or light almond. So if I change it to black, say OK, and when I come back here, now they're black. So we've got three colors that we can choose from on the custom engraved membrane. Now, if I want to create the worksheet, again, I can save it, and I'll call this Jones. And this would include all of every button. I've only added one, but if I had 15 keypads, it would be all of them. And if I go to my documents now, UPB, designs, and Jones, keypad engraving, and it pulls up my text file. So here's when it was created, who's the installer, who's the customer, here's the buttons. You basically can copy this and then send it as an email to our guy, and he can grab all the information, drop it into his program, and print the stuff out. Now you also notice I've got rich text files here. So the Jones, the living room keypad, this is for the CEMs, which is the membranes. That will then go ahead and open up, and it's basically the order form. And you can email that to us, and we can get those ordered for you. And my machine is running very slow because I'm all on got the webinar stuff going. So while that's kind of thinking a little bit, we got another question here. All right. So at this point, we've got, the CEM form. It's Mrs. Jones. It's in the living room. Here's the information that you want on the buttons. I want one of those, the font, the style, and all of a sudden, here you go. You can send that to us. We can order it and get things going for you. So, we've tried to create all of the neat little pieces to enable you to do different things. Now, the thing that I like last on my system, besides doing my communication test, is print preview. And this is actually a report. So we printed this here. Who's the installer? Who's the customer? Network information. The statistics are all of the devices that are in the system. This is by device name. Okay. This is device order. I can go to my next page. And what this will do on the keypad now, on off ABCD, the button text, what its transmit is assignment, what scene basically it's assigning, what mode the button is in. This is just gives us a scene number for reference, and then what the fonts you want it to be. So, we're kind of giving you a little bit more of a printout of things, and then the next page goes into my scene number, my scene name, all the devices in that scene, what's triggering it, what's responding to it, and what my LEDs are doing. So this actually gives you a hard copy of the program, of the file, and you can actually use this as your sign-off sheet. That, look, from what we discussed in design in the beginning, this is now kind of what we've got programmed. So, CYA. So that being said, that kind of gives me the information of that. And I think I just answered your question, Mr. Mike. Is there a way to print out an icon view, list view, PC snipping? Okay, is there an easy way to print an icon view in lieu of a list view printout without using a PC snipping? Not really. In an icon view, no. But one of the things that we have worked on, I think most of the icon view has to do with how the keypads are laid out, and that was actually addressed within this next page here. What are the on buttons doing? What are they triggering? What's their mode? Kind of a thing. So, if I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to do, all off, do I want to have a scene that says, a little icon that says all off and then every single device under it? Well, I can actually kind of look at that as my scene name, where I've got, all off here. So, for my aspect, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to save this file. I'm calling Jones 1017. And that's just kind of a preference, I think, because when you kind of come back and look at a very large file, we've got, here's all the devices, and then, I'm not sure how exactly you're looking to do that, but we can talk about that offline. But when I get down to my scenes, here's my kitchen 100%. Here's what the devices are. What do they call them? And that's to me one of the big important things for people when you are naming your devices. What room is it in? It's in the living room. What is the device name? What do you call it? What does Mrs. Jones call it? Not what you call it. What does Mrs. Jones call it? Well, I have multiple keypads in my living room. This is a keypad by the window, which is a desktop unit on a coffee stand. I've got keypad table. This is the one at the other end of the couch. It's on a table. And then in the living room, I've got the front door keypad. So that's a KPLD, so that's kind of got two things. I didn't call it a keypad, I just call it the front door. So it's kind of both. So that being said, you know, one of the things I can do under my tools when I'm signing off on a system is I can do a repeater test that I can choose my repeater, and it'll go out and make sure the repeater's working. I'm going to do a COM test to it. And then I can actually do a test to certain devices or every device. So let's select none. And let's say I just want to test everything in the living room. Right? And yes, I do have an appliance module on my amplifier because it sucks 200 watts in the off state. And I can actually save this as 10.17. And I'll now run my test. And what this will do is that the repeater will now go and talk to each of these devices and show me, you know, 249 is my repeater. Going to device number 3, it's on and the phase is on opposite to where my PIM IT is. Okay, you can see that we're getting data back and forth. So no failure. I had 61 at the repeater. I had 82 at the device. Device number 5 is not in. It failed because it's not plugged in at this point. We're moving some stuff around. But this gives me, you know, noise, information, things along that nature, and the repeater is literally at the top of the food chain. So to me, this is kind of my, how well does everybody communicate to each other back and forth. And a lot of people ask me, hey, you know, why do I want a repeater? Well, I've actually got a fixture module in my house set up to turn the repeater on or off, and I had to come back and change this, you know, reran this report, these numbers would be a lot lower. So, and it'll run through. I think that's all of them there. But I'm just going to stop this real quick to save some time. And obviously, we can, you know, we can go and print all that information out as well. I can also do a device-to-device test where I can pick any one of the keypads. So my office keypad, I can have it talk to, say, the yellow bedroom light, and I can run the COM test to make sure that it's all, you know, how well are those different devices talking to each other. So yellow light got 67 coming back, you know, I'll have 70. So, and we're on the same phase. They're both on the same phase to each other. And you know, I mean, I can do a COM test to any one of the devices as well, which just pulls up the edit window and things along that nature. Now, one of the last little test things that I usually recommend is in a scene like this, dinner time, I've got this keypad talking to all of these devices. Well, I can right-click here, and I can say check COM with receivers. So this keypad would go out, and I can save the file. But I can run a test to see how well this keypad talks to every single device. And it'll give me my signal strength and how much noise, things like that. So that also gives me the confidence of how well everything is communicating within the system. So, you know, variety of different ways to check things, program things, and these have all come up red because I changed something in the programming. So that being said, you know, we've gone through the network tab, the systems designer, we've gone through the devices, how to add them, the scenes, through the scene builder, which is a very, very powerful tool to enable you to quickly get your scenes built and checked. And then again, the tools, I can look at do my testing, all of that, and, you know, I can save my file, get it programmed, and off we go. So unless you folks have any questions at this point, that's what I've got for this webinar. I hope you've seen the benefits of 7, some of the newest things that are there. We are going to be doing more and more webinars, kind of advanced programming, some other devices, things like that. And we'll also, please remember that we have the PIM-IP and app webinar next Friday. So you'll all be getting a follow-up email for attending the webinar. We've got a couple of offers for you to, try some stuff out at a special discounted price. Everything will be confirmed that you attended. So that all being said, I'll be here for a couple of minutes to go over anything. And other than that, thank you very much for attending.